Okay, so my name's Emma Forrest Lee and I'm the, I suppose you'd call the trip organiser. I'm taking 4 of my colleagues to France this week. We're on the 3rd of 6 trips for Erasmus. And again, our lines of inquiry are as before. With Germany and with Malta, we're looking at national values and how to deliver national values. We're also looking at work experience, and I think that this trip should be really exciting because none of us have experienced education within a French establishment before. And the comparisons between the 2 other places, it should really help us evaluate some of our processes and refine them and make things better for our learners.
Hello, so I'm Claire Servant. I'm a teacher here, and I'm very happy to have you here in this Erasmus program. And we've been waiting for this for 1 year, so we are so happy that you are here finally. And we are going to try to show you how it works here in Lycée Jean Monnet in Yzeure, Moulins, in France. And as you know, France is very different from your country, so we are very happy to show you our values, our objectives here, and all our our subjects here, because we don't have the same. In this week, we are going to show you glass, iron metal, and art, design, and so on, because we don't have the same art as you have in Grimsby College. So we'll be happy to show you, and then to try and show you outside school, some places you could maybe be happy to send some of your students. So I hope we'll have fun and that you learn a lot of things here and that you will be happy to come back next year and so on.
Okay, so we've just arrived here at the college and we've had some really interesting discussions about work experience and how the curriculum looks. There's some really interesting things coming out about the amount of time that learners spend doing work experience. Over a 3-year period, they'll do 22 weeks worth of work experience, which I think is huge, and all the learners kind of work to get their own work experience placements. So that's been really useful so far, and everyone's been really friendly and making us feel very welcome, so I look forward to the rest of the trip. Well, I think planning for the 2-year programme might be more interesting, because if you think they're looking at the holistic picture, so 3 years, 22 weeks over 3 years. So if we can start looking at a holistic picture over 2-year programmes for level 3 potentially, that might be able to get some consistency over the work placements over the 1st and 2nd years. So that could be an interesting avenue for exploration.
Okay, so it's a really interesting place. Lots of similar things, but there's lots of things that are different from what we are experiencing at the Grimsby Institute. Notice a distinct lack of computers, which is, on one hand, makes me a little bit nervous from how welded we are to computers, but the freedom that probably will give their students. We've had a sit down with some of the staff, and they've made us feel very welcome. We've gone through to the catering, and we're about to sample some of that in a short while. And we're in the library now, and it's ever so quiet. They've just had a holiday just like us, so they said that their students are drifting back in now after 2 weeks. So looking forward to seeing what's happening this afternoon. Maybe a little bit of music. I think I've already been volunteered to play some music with the students, so we'll see how we get on with that.
Donc Emmanuel Vigneault, donc je suis directeur délégué aux formations au lycée Jean Monnet. Donc je suis responsable des filières design, métiers d'art et industrie. Donc nos étudiants, pour valider leur diplôme, effectuent 6 semaines de stage par an sur des cycles de formation de 2 ans. Donc voilà, en moyenne entre 12 et 14 semaines pour obtenir le diplôme. C'est une expérience professionnelle donc, qui leur permet de pouvoir mieux intégrer les entreprises, mais qui est obligatoire pour l'obtention du diplôme.
I'm Gauthier Diatier. I'm 18 and I'm trying to be a glass artist. In school you learn all the part about the skill and how to touch the glass. But when you do an internship, you learn how to be a glass artist and you know the backstage. So yeah, I learned a lot with this internship. I met a glass artist, and I said I worked with Galia Amzel, and he said, he said, "Wow, it's amazing." And so when I was in England, I worked with him because I work with Galia. So in the world of artists, it's a lot of connection, and if you know somebody, you are somebody. The internship can be a really good experience, and for my own, I grew a lot in my head and in my skill, because you know, in school you can break it, and it's not very bad, but when you are with artist and you break, it's a lot of money, and you learn how to be careful and patient. I think it's very important.
We have a partnership with the customer, Mr. Osres, and the school. And the deal is Mr. Osres do the work in the school to reduce the cost, and students cut, paint, and the customer have a less price, and we profit of the experience of Mr. Osres. And perhaps if the customer have not enough money to pay this work, perhaps it never be done. So it's a deal of 3 parts, and I hope all the parts is gagnant.
So these are the first year students of our school of design, master degree, and usually we are working with companies or institution, museum, other school, or other department of the school, like the glass working classes. And the first year is occupied with different projects, different short projects, which are focusing on different skills to have a student well prepared for the second years. And during the second years, this is a more one big project. And during the years, the student need to explore a question, to get information for diverse contexts, and then make a project to have the diploma. So this is 2 different rhythms. The first is more a few projects very focusing on one skill, like one technology, one field of design, or stuff like that. And the second is more one big project with historical aspects and technical aspects, and at the end an exhibition of the different projects. But now we got students from China, from Poland, sorry, from Poland, and all over the France. So it's quite refreshing to get new profiles and new background between the students, because there is several classes which are more classical, like you are on the table and you are reading and writing, but most of the time it's more workshops during which students need to organize themselves, like to take a break and eat and sleep wherever and whenever they can. So it's more flexible during these times.
But in classes, you tend not to have people trying to eat or use their phone. Everyone seems to be concentrating on what they're doing.
We told us you were coming.
Oh, okay.
No, we don't actually. or 5 minutes ago. But really it depends. Maybe during the design classes, they were very long period of time. So for 10 hours, they can of course take something to eat or use the cell phone or go there buying some stuff to work. There is no problem for that. It really depends on the subject.
Yeah.
We buy industrial machine to make the training credible for the industry.
So we've just finished day one of our tour around Jean Monnet, the school, and we found some fantastic things so far. So we was touring through the iron workshops and the glass workshops that they have here, and it's quite clear just to see what a massive emphasis they place on work experience. As we've learned and has been discussed already, they have 22 weeks of work experience that they have. But we interviewed and we talked to a few of the learners and the tutors there, and the experiences that they get through work experience, such as one learner travelled to New Zealand, he's been to England, and just like the experience he got from that, and how his tutor discussed that, how it changed him as a person, it had matured him, it made him more independent, like works better under pressure, more autonomous. It just highlights how important work experience is here, as well as other learners who already have their career path, but they're undergoing this work experience in the glass workshops and the iron workshops just to get more of a grasp of a different side of the industry that they're already in. Now, alongside that, while it's not quite in your face, we've seen displayed the important values that France has and France highlights through the respect that the learners have, through how kind they are, how polite they are, and just their mannerisms throughout the day and the way they are. They're always hard working. We'd go through the sessions and they'd just be working all the way through, and sometimes you might not get that in certain classes, but these were fantastic learners all the way through all the day. So one of the things we noticed and was highlighted to us while I was here is the use of traditional methods as well as modern methods. So there's quite an importance placed on using traditional methods of ironworking and glassworking and comparing that to modern methods. And with this, it gives them, it also benefits their work experience because they see how it was developed as they go. And it's a fantastic site. There was learning on the older machines, that some that were designed in the 1920s and the 1930s and have been operated in fantastic use since then. So they're just getting all this experience on all these different types of machines.
Okay, so it's day 2 in France. I think we've got quite a busy day planned today. Yesterday was hugely busy. The amount that we learnt, certainly in the morning, about work experience, but in the afternoon, surprisingly, we picked up so much stuff about culture, students monitoring each other's safe spaces, having student profiles on all the walls to have like a sense of community. So it's hard to imagine today that we'll be able to pick up any more than yesterday, but I'm sure, looking at the schedule, that we will. We're just about to sit in a class delivering art history and art context. Then we go back to the glass workshops, and this afternoon we've got a visit to have a look at where some of the students have work placements. So yeah, just really keen to see for myself and for my colleagues here what else we can pick up and what we can take back and start to implement back in the UK. Looking forward to it.
So I've just been into an art history lesson and looking at the different teaching techniques that they employ. Kind of old school as we would see it. Gapped handouts, working through worksheets, but real engagement from the learners, which is good to see. No phones at all. Really kind of flowing lesson with learners doing some good work.
We're currently in the electrical workshop, which is really interesting, especially from my point of view, because I love this kind of stuff. What we have noticed that there's quite a lot of flags around here, and they're celebrating being part of Europe, which again helps them to understand that they need to be fully European to be employable. what Claire said was a phrase that I've heard quite a bit when we asked whether or not the electricity is turned on when these students are using their equipment, and she said, of course, it's real world. And I think that's one of the real key messages I'm going to take from this entire trip. It's real world.
Just one quick interesting thing, just while we're in this workshop really, looking up at these signs, just asked Claire why they're English signs, and she said that for an hour a week on a vocational programme, they'll teach in English to embed the English skills. I just thought that was a really interesting thing. We try and embed where we can the maths and English, but if we took an hour explicitly out, so say for jewellery making and said, right, in this hour once a week we'll look at pricing and we'll look at how the maths skills help us, it really makes you do it and it puts that emphasis on it. And I just wondered that could be a bit of good practice that we might bring back and just think about how we might use it. It seems such a given that you would do it here, a real no-brainer, but it's something that we don't do. So I think there's something that we could do with that.
It's fantastic that learners would be able to use this space for work experience, because if there was a local offer as well that can link together, getting learners to learn front of house as well, so they can come and perform, but also get involved with the front of house, because that's the growing sector as well, isn't it? It's where the jobs are in the market, so it's really exciting.
With our high school, our college, so now we are privileged. We've got privilege, and we don't pay once a year. We don't pay to afford this theatre, so it's very good. And he will do his best to communicate about what we do, so all over the city, and he will help us to get all what we need to. And he would be very fond of the idea of letting students work here together, our students, French students and English students all together, either on the technical part and on the exhibition part. So he is very fond of our project.
Okay, so we're at Studio Palace here in Moulins, and we've just met the guys and been shown around the studio, and they've got amazing facilities and fantastic opportunities, and if learners could be involved in this kind of project, it would be a fantastic experience for them. This is, they've got Dolby Atmos standard studio, which they've just demoed to us, and it sounded incredible. Learners to be able to be working in this environment would be so valuable. So the learners would be able to come here, spend 2 days a week here in this studio, and then spend 3 days a week on campus looking at that as well. So really taking the educational benefit from both elements and the work readiness from both elements that we've already kind of explored, that we see on campus, and the work experience of real life studios on site as well, which is fantastic. The real benefit of working with Erasmus is allowing our learners and getting our learners to places like this that we wouldn't necessarily get in our local area. So the learners coming to this kind of place in UK is not likely. So Erasmus has given us the gift of being able to get our learners to these kind of places, and myself as well, which is fantastic. Thank you, Erasmus.
So we've been lucky enough to be shown around Palace Studios. Clients include people that are working with Peter Gabriel. They chose this studio over Real World Studios, one of the best studios in the world in the UK. So it's a real good place for those people to come. Important discussion about the differences in software and the importance of having both rather than just specialising in one software. So which is something our learners need to know.
So obviously my involvement and the reason I'm coming on these trips to mentor you is to keep bringing you back to the Erasmus funding and what you can do with the things that you've learned moving forward for our learners. So we've talked about a KA1 possibility. So the KA1 is for our art students. Darren, you've seen some things on campus that you think would be useful for our art students?
Yeah, definitely. There's some fantastic art sessions going on. The involvement links to industry and product-based art, which I think is really key for art students. So I think getting them involved with the product-based
Good.
areas of arts would be really beneficial.
So a KA1 is the thing that we'd go for with that.
Yeah.
So 3 days in campus and then 2 days in a work placement. We're going to go tomorrow and try and do a bit of a recce on a work placement. What we have found, I think, is that the KA2, which is a 2-year project, is probably the better thing for our performance students. So a KA2 project is where you pick a project and you research it and you do several mobilities until you've completed the project. So for our performance students, I mean, think about those placements today. The places that we've been to
so
today.
that they could collaborate with the music club and the studios and the theatre that we saw last night as well.
Yeah.
Everybody could have the brief beforehand and then meet and have that.
Good.
We really get collaborative performances, rehearsing here and then coming back, and then we can show it here in the great theatre there. We could go back and do it there. We could even do recording projects as well. There's options to be able to do something there.
And in terms of the content that your students will work on, obviously we've been looking at the culture and the differences in culture. Do you think your students could do that as the content development for music, so the lyrics and things?
Yeah, I mean, we could, like when in music club where we attempted that French song, we could.
Yeah.
It's a good song, and I think, you know, it would be really nice if we did have a collaboration, if we went away and learnt that and brought it to here to say, you know, this is what we experienced when we were here, and a great way of saying, you know, that we're interested in the students.
You know what an interesting element might be? Given that we've got the studios and then we've just been to that studio there, having our students record something here and their students record something back with us.
That's the KA2.
So just the recording element, not just the live performance, but actually the recording of it as well, so they can get
the music club to us. And
If you think there's something there for students to do, that's what a KA2 would be. And while you were looking at the recording studios, we were looking at some different funding streams, and there's something that the British Council do where French and English can collaborate together. No other European country can do it, and it's a 1-week project, so we could do some initial research on that. So I think that the stuff that we've found so far obviously is helpful for you as practitioners, but there's definitely legs in it in terms of moving forward, future projects, the KA1, KA2 and that 1-week project, if you're in agreement.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Good.
Exciting times. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Okay, so yesterday was a really busy day, but a day where we learned a really important lesson about assessment. We watched some learners during a summative assessment where the tutors were asking the learners to present their work. But what we found was that at summative assessment, the panel consists of an employer, a professional person that works in the same trade as the learners learning, and also a teacher from another college, and that's massively different to anything that we do. So that's certainly a takeaway for us and something we can look to implement in different ways. Today we're going to scope out another employer for a UK learner placement if we go for another KA1 bid. We've got a meeting to look at all the different lines of inquiry and how they're pulling together, and also how we can make new partnerships and new bids with our French partners that we've spent this week with. And then I deliver a session to our business learners just to wrap the week up. So it's going to be a busy day, but a rewarding one. So today I was asked to deliver to a class. I was asked with about 2 minutes notice. It wasn't to a group of students that I knew. It wasn't my subject, it was a completely different subject. I had no internet, had no resources, I had no time to prep. And I think as I've gotten to do these over different Erasmus programmes, I've realised the value of them, because on that one I just wasn't worried about it and I just did it naturally, and to me, as I say, that really shows the value of Erasmus, that you build up resilience as a teacher. If you were a new teacher doing that, it's a fantastic opportunity to think on your feet and show what you can do, and certainly to my colleagues to be able to watch that and to have opportunities like that with Erasmus, it really does refine your practice. So yeah, that was a great experience today. So my name's Emma Forrest-Lee and I'm from the Grimsby Institute, and we're just concluding our KA1 visit in May 2017.
Hello, I'm Claire Servant, a maths teacher here in Jean Monnet in Moulins, France, and I'm responsible of this exchange with Grimsby College.
So the first thing I wanted to say on behalf of my whole team is thank you so much, because you've really looked after us so well. The visit's been helpful in so many ways. We've learned about the classroom, about teaching, but also found work placements for students, And I think we found ways to move forward as a really strong partnership.
Yeah,
do you feel the same?
Oh yes, exactly. We feel exactly the same. And what we want to say is that your visit was very useful to us. As last year, our visit to your college was very useful too. And what we think is that probably we learned things now, and we are going to learn more and more things altogether, because you work differently, and I think we can exchange not only persons but also ideas.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we think that we've got things we can do straight away when we get back, and then things that might take longer.
Yes.
In terms of our partnership, we have talked about having a funded exchange for 1 week and having students coming together to make a band.
Yes, as a team. So one group from yours, or one group from ours, exchanging, and probably we're working together on a project, maybe an exhibition or something like this, which will make everyone shows what skills he learned at school, and maybe on his own skills, and new things that they students have never done before.
I think, your colleagues and my colleagues have had amazing experience to improve themselves, but our job now is to make sure that our learners have that too.
Yes.
So we'll put a KA1 bid in, a KA2 bid in.
Yes, probably.
And think probably we'll work together for several years to come. This has been a really successful visit.
That would be great, because I think everybody is friendly and everybody wants things to get better and better. So we will do it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so the first thing I'd like to say is thank you to Erasmus, because Erasmus have provided me with this fantastic experience, and without the funding I wouldn't have learned the things that I've learned and have a chance to spend so much time with my team and see the team develop. In terms of what I'm taking back, immediately when I get back I'm going to meet with the work experience team and try and get them involved in the employment of an artist in residence. Before now I'd left it to the curriculum manager, and I think that it's more than the model that I had thought of before. It's about demonstrating skills and techniques to students, but also bringing paid work in for the artist in residence. So that's what I'll do immediately when we get back. We normally advertise that at the end of April, so we've got a 2-week window for that. So that certainly will happen straight away. I then need to explore with the British Council the funding stream that was presented to me here to look at a 2-week project for our French and English students. And longer term, there's a few ideas that we need to work through with as a team. I'm very keen to promote the next French trip to other colleagues of mine, colleagues perhaps that work in different areas that I'd like to bring together. I've seen that as a benefit of this trip. And I would like to bid for a KA1 and a KA2 based on the things that we've done here. It's been a thoroughly rewarding experience and a great time to spend with my colleagues and see them bond with each other and find out more about them, but certainly pick up some things that we can strengthen our practice at home.
This Erasmus trip has been absolutely amazing, a great opportunity. I've never experienced anything like this before in my life, so to come here and just experience the the same things but slightly different, it's been absolutely wonderful. One of the things I'm going to do when I get back straight away is try and slow my sessions down a little bit, concentrate on skills rather than delivery and assessment, and let them kind of flower a little bit more. Personally, I really feel like I've tried to embrace the language a little bit more and speak to new people and just give it a go rather than just resorting to English all the time. So longer term, I'm going to allow my students to build core skills, practice the techniques over and over in the studios before I let them loose on creative projects, so they can build up those core skills that they need to then be creative with.
To begin, I'd just like to thank Erasmus for this fantastic opportunity. Travelling abroad and taking part in these trips is just something totally new to me, and it's been an amazing experience from the Monday that we left until now. So it's definitely something I'd like to thank Erasmus for. Now, I've took a lot away from this trip, and things that I'm definitely going to implement over the short term and the long term. So in terms of what I'll immediately going to implement into my own teaching, I think that with the year planner for next year being implemented quite soon and being worked on, I think I'm going to try and get into that and work with the APs and the CMs quite closely in making sure that my learners and myself get the opportunity to work on these trips, get the opportunity to travel abroad and to the other areas of Britain, and take away from these trips exactly what I've taken away, especially to the students that don't really get that opportunity. Now, we've seen a significant amount of work experience while we're here as well, so I think the way that work experience works here, in terms of having the students finding the work placements themselves, and us as programme leaders and the lecturers that run the courses going out and visiting these workplaces of work and assessing, making sure it's being done and just see if they're gaining it. I think I'd like to take on that role over the long term as of next year, because it clearly works extremely well here. Students find fantastic work experience, and from speaking from the students and the tutors, it's clearly of massive benefit to them, and that's something I'd like to change from my own teaching. Now, personally, I believe I'm taking a lot away from this trip, as a person. I've never travelled abroad before, never really been on a plane, so to get to experience another culture like this, be fully immersed in it, it's been outstanding for me, and I think I'm just going to take all sorts away from it. I've learned the language, or elements of the language, experienced the culture, the food, the way teaching's done here, and it's going to change me quite massively as a person, socially and responsibly. So one final thing I'd like to mention in this is the way that I've worked with the other member of this team. So we are the only faculty that really works quite closely. So the computing teams works with the music team, with the performing art team, and we all mesh together, and to get the opportunity to speak to people that I've never really spoken to or never really worked with before has been fantastic. And that's something I'd certainly like to thank my AP for, because it's been a great opportunity to learn about the other members of the team and work with them.
Okay, first of all I want to thank Emma and Claire for organising the trip. It's been really beneficial to me, as I've grown as quite a lot as a person individually. Having opportunities to present to SMT and those kind of things hopefully has boosted my confidence for presenting to senior management teams anywhere in the world, hopefully. One thing I'm going to take back straight away is assessment with employers. I would love to get employees involved in the assessments that are coming up for us straight away. Longer term, I like to look at the collaboration between with performing arts and music, and hopefully looking for another Erasmus bid to be able to get performers from Giffey and performers from here in France and do an exchange. I think that'd be massively valuable for the learners and another great learning curve for myself.